The 13th floor. The 13th floor.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 13th floor, where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing. I am your moderator, B. Jones, and I'm joined by my man once again, Brian Jones. What's up, BJ?
All good, man. Let's go. Let's get it.
New hotel room tonight, I see.
It's the flavor of the week, baby. Hampton Inn. Let's go.
Coach K, what's going on, man?
What's happening? I'm here. Ready to go.
Ready to go? You sound excited.
I am, man. Listen, man, this is my excitement.
And we got to give a warm welcome to our BFBG back on the podcast. Faison, what's happening?
I'm happy to be back. It's been a minute. I feel like I'm starting over again, relearning the whole thing, but it's cool. I'm excited. I'm excited to be back finally after like a month or so. Yeah.
Probably about that, man. Probably about that.
Yeah.
But everything is well with the family and such. The boys are good.
Everything is well. The boys are good. Wife is good. Has some struggles with a couple real estate things, but you know what? You keep moving, and it's a part of the process. So we'll discuss that later.
Okay, we're looking forward to it, man. You picked the perfect episode to come back to. We got several things we getting into, man. First being this new P&G Proctor Gamble commercial, The Look. Got an opportunity to check that out yesterday, courtesy of Brian or BJ, and it's the first ad that I've seen that actually did it. I feel pretty much right this time. Mm-hmm. If you haven't checked that advertisement out, it's the perspective, the black male perspective. Basically, you get to see the world for about a minute and a half through the eyes of a black man, and all of the looks that we get throughout our different travels and moves and such, even with our families. And then they bring it full circle at the end with all of the condescending looks, the fear in other people's eyes when we walk into rooms, or if we're just there. And then they bring it full circle with this black man walking up to his to the what is it called that they sit at? The bench. I thought it had a special name. I'm sorry, but the bench as a judge, and all of the respect that is commanded with that position. So Art, since you joined us, man, I want to start with you, man. Get your take on the advertisement and see what you think.
Well, when I was watching it, and again, I went into this not knowing anything, so I caught it literally last minute, and it was shocking. Like I was just looking, it was just at every second, I'm like, whoa, that's crazy, because you see that happen, you hear the stories of that happening. You live through that daily ourselves in different instances. Certain things I haven't been through, the car roll-up thing, but I've seen the look in the pool or something else. So it was just shocking. And I get to the end, and you like you just put a smile on your face, like all that. And now you're looking at me with the respect, and I now hold the power in my hands. So it's just like cool, because he didn't react. He didn't act certain ways. He kept a really straight face. It was good to see him show that view, not being angry, but just kind of being like, unfortunately, this is the way it is, but my time will come when it's ready for it. And it did.
Yeah, especially like the fact that it opens up a conversation. And, we're in the trying times right now. And I think as we move to the new election season and trying to repair some of the damage that's gone throughout the nation, this is a perfect opportunity by one of those industry giants to put together something that's thought-provoking, well put together, in my opinion, that starts a conversation and actually puts the black man into the front of a conversation and not the black woman at this point in time. As you know, that the movement and the push for women in general has been huge, but black women right now in society as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, I can't say anything else for that. That was a perfect synopsis of how it is right now, and it was just good. It was just good to see that view of it. I mean, like I said, starting off, I thought it would be about the son and dad, something happening or an issue happening, going to some kind of police violence or something of that sort. And it just turned, and it caught me off guard because I wasn't ready for I wasn't ready for a peaceful thing. I was ready for like some kind of violence to happen towards those two, or something happened towards the family, the black family that's there. So I guess that's jarring because you expect that to happen, and it
I
didn't.
would say that's a little telling in itself, and everyday experiences and the things that we're used to seeing. For you to even expect that, or just come to be like, oh, that's what the norm is.
Yeah.
But
Situation in that manner.
I think you have to look. That's part of the whole thing. That's the beauty of the ad. Is that what happens to us is so low key every day. It doesn't always have to get to violence. It doesn't have to get to police brutality. We're alienated and isolated every single day in some form or fashion, depending on our environment. So especially for, those like us and some of our audience out there who you found some level of success. And with that level of success, you get exposure to some other things, other people, and you are constantly treated like, there's something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm. I think first of all, shout out to the home team, Proctor Gamble. That Cincinnati, where they found it out. So when I saw the ad drop, Proctor Gamble had been going not through many things, but hadn't really been known as a big community thing back home. Like you worked for them, that was one of the big companies to work for, and I mean they didn't treat their employees bad, but they weren't back in the day. They weren't really known for all the community stuff and outreach. And I think it was a little bit over a year ago when the first ad dropped, The Talk. And I don't know if anybody remembers that one. But that's the one where
that was them.
That was them as well. That was The Talk was the first one. So this is the follow-up to The Talk. So The Look is part 2. So The Talk, for those that might not, you can Google it, look it up on YouTube. Basically the conversation that Black families have to have with kids, mainly young males, but really just Black youth in general, about how they're perceived or what you got to do or what happens when you're pulled over by the police. That's where it started at. So this was part 2, the second chapter. And I was kind of shocked when I first saw it. Like I did not expect, like Art said, what transpired at the end. It's a first person point of view shot where they transition. And then now you're thinking you're the Black man walking into a courtroom. Mm-hmm. From his perspective, and all these white faces and other faces looking at you, and then you look up, and then that man is the judge. Mm-hmm. I got everything that you took, but at the end, it kind of made me shift a little bit and think about, again, exactly what Carol was just saying a minute ago. Even if let me say this first. It was the first ad I've seen in a long time that I truly could say was a true reflection of myself. That I've probably experienced every single thing that was depicted in that commercial at some point in time, whether it be from middle school, teenage years, high school, until this current day. No matter what.
Say, like Saturday at the park with Asher, just me and Asher, and I'm the only Black father out there with, a Black child.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, these are real things that happen on a regular basis, and a lot of people don't understand, like, and it is no excuse for anybody, but I really don't think that people really understand like what you deal with on a regular basis, and all the images you take in and all the scenarios you take in on a regular basis. Is just like, why is the world like this? And my son is growing up in this. My daughter's growing up in this. I pray to God that they don't have to deal with this, but reality is they're going to deal with this no matter where they go and what they do. But it was the kind of reminder also, again, like Carol was saying, that when you get to, no matter what career you do, no matter what field you're in, at some point in time, if you experience a level of success, and you're the one the spotlight is on you, and in quote unquote the power role has changed, then it's kind of different. So I saw that man standing up there as a judge, but reality was those weren't things that happened years ago. Those were things that happened to him either that morning on his way to a judge, on the way to work as a judge. He just had a robe on, so they didn't command that respect. And it's a saying he has to wear that robe in order to command the respect and get the look that he deserves.
Well, not just wear the robe, but he has to be there
on the bench,
right, in order to be. Oh yes, he is a judge, and even then. There are those of us that in our current roles now in our 9 to 5, we get asked all the time, wow, are you really the GM here? Like, you have a card or something that says that? Mm-hmm. Like, you have to prove it.
Yeah.
They're just not used to seeing people like us in these positions, they're like, wow, okay, didn't think you all had the capacity.
Yeah.
When I get new principals in school, when I get new district level leaders, when I walk into a school board meeting, when I walk in all these things, it's like you have your suit and tie on, you walk in and y'all know me. I'm not the first person gonna go in a room and make a loud noise and make myself known. I'm gonna go in a room, I'm kind of fade to the back, right? And then somebody will introduce me as the assistant director, blah, blah, blah. And then everybody's face like, they basically don't say, him?
Right.
Like, I don't deserve to be there. And it's happened many, many times, right? But I use that as fuel to keep on pushing. And I actually love when it happens because it gives me a chance to like put myself out there and actually go toe to toe with some people, not in a confrontational way, but at least I give them at that point in time, I'll give my stats and what I've done and how long I've been with the organization and the fact that I've been doing X, Y, and Z for so long. At that point, but again, it's to the point where you have to prove a point with your credentials to earn the respect, right? You can't just say that, oh, here's the thing. Well, it must be this or it must be because of this reason, right? It can't just be because you know what you're talking about. You're good at what you do and you've earned your way there. So.
Exactly. That was going to be one of my questions because I wanted to know how you guys actually feel when you're confronted with those types of situations because I think there's a huge level of grace and tact that we all have to move with in those situations. I know, Carol, you speak about the general manager situation. You talked about a situation not too long ago on a podcast where you were confronted with that very thing. And, you know, an emotional reaction will almost always be the wrong reaction in this regard. And so,
absolutely.
Right. We have to walk and move in a specific type of way when we're confronted with these events.
But the reality of the matter is that any of us that have excelled to a certain level, we've gone through this at every level on the way. So by the time you get to, you know, you're the GM, you're the executive, whatever you are, you're pretty much numb to it. Like it doesn't surprise you. Okay. I expected that to be your reaction. No problem. I mean, I straight lie to people now when they ask me, what do you, I'm the porter.
What?
I just drive people back and forth, you know, but I'm going to help you. And they're like, oh my gosh, like you're really good. You've got more talent than being just a porter. Huh? Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's
the one thing I'll add to that, because there's a flip side to that coin too, because the commercial clearly depicted the difference between black and white. But also, exactly what Carol said, it's not just opposite colors that do that, because we do that as black folks ourselves.
Right. Yep.
Right. And sometimes that's even worse.
I was gonna say.
So I don't want to make this like this is not a black versus white conversation. It's a reflection on that scenario. So we got to point out that it's worse in our own community sometimes.
Absolutely.
And to our own fault sometimes, you know, when you look at perpetuation of narratives and stereotypes and things, I mean, we do a very good job of not doing those types of things to kind of change the stereotypes and change the stigma associated with these things. And I think the more that we continue to put ourselves in positions to do so, and the more that we're highlighted for it, because again, I was highly impressed that this commercial, you know, this was centered around the black man. You don't see this in this fashion very often outside of an athlete or an entertainer.
Let me everybody keep talking about how impressed they are and everything, and don't get me wrong, yes, the content of the ad is impressive, but if I may pull the wool off of it for you guys, so let me just list some of the brands that Procter and Gamble represent. All right. So there's Love's, just a diaper. There's Pampers, Tide, Bounce, Cheer, Downy, Dreft, Era, Gain, Ace, Bounty, Charmin, Puffs, Always Discreet, Tampax. Head and Shoulders, we don't really mess with that. Aussie, Herbal Essences, Old Spice, Pantene, Cascade, Dawn, Febreze, Gain, Ultra Joy, Mr. Clean, Swiffer, Ambipure, Comet, Braun, Gillette, Gillette Venus, The Art of Shaving.
Comment?
Yep.
Procter & Gamble got a hand in everything, I'm telling you.
Align,
Wow.
Probiotic Supplement, Care Blue, Metamucil, Pepto-Bismol, Prilosec, Vicks, Z-Quil, Crest Fixodent, Oral-B Scope, Gillette Ivory, Oil of Olay, Old Spice, Safeguard, Secret, Native, Snowberry, and SK2, whatever that is. Okay. So I went through that whole list because just to put out there, and if audience, if you didn't get a chance, you want to go back and listen to our podcast, we'll put the episode number in the show notes. We always say we're going to do that. I don't know if we ever put them in the notes, but you definitely want to go back and look for the one called Trigger Warning. And what you're seeing is the response to the Buy Black movement, right? A lot of those products that I just listed, there are somebody that sells a black version, and the Buy Black movement is getting so strong that there has to be a response to try and keep the percentage of your black consumer. So what you see in this ad is a very well calculated push towards, okay, we're losing some of our black consumer. We need to put something out there to show them that we're with them, we support them, especially since we're in their communities. As BJ just said, they're in Cincinnati, right? And I'm sure that they have plants in other places, but that's just something that hit me. After I watched it, I was like, oh man, this is great. And I see what y'all are doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying that. I see that as well.
That's a good eye.
Wow.
How many of those products do we currently consume? Well, I know I heard about maybe 4 or 5 on that list that I do on a regular basis, but that's a good eye. That's a good eye.
Well,
So when I think about that too, and I agree, like is an advertisement, everything now is their bottom line, right? But again, I look at companies nowadays and who has the open-mindedness to attempt to reach markets. I get it. They're made on selling household products. That's what they do.
Yeah,
right?
I don't. Yes, there are probably some people in the organization that have open-mindeds towards it, but I think what you're seeing is an open wallet at this point where they're willing to throw dollars towards our communities in order to keep our communities and to keep our demographic as a consumer. And it just tells me that this is confirmation that while the Buy Black movement is still pretty discreet, you don't see it everywhere. To some degree, it must be working.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fair to question the integrity of it, man. But I think it's also good that you pointed out so the listener or the consumer is not swayed so much, because as happy as I am to see that advertisement and to see that, you know, they're putting this out there and maybe it's going to spark some conversations, change some minds, move some souls, whatever, it shouldn't deter from us, you know, maintaining an eye on the goal, you know what I'm saying? Maintaining that Buy Black movement, continuing to support our own and things of that nature. So I'm happy you pointed that out, girl. That's great. That's good. That's a good eye.
The great thing is that I didn't even think about buying any of their products.
I didn't either.
That's a good. I was happy that company did it, because I couldn't. You asked me what do they make? I'd be like, I don't know. They do. I don't know. It's like ask me what DuPont makes. It's like I don't know, but they're everywhere. So I wouldn't think about that. But when you put into that aspect, that really is mind blowing, because it is like that's facts. That is 100% facts. And I would love to see if that commercial makes it to primetime TV, because it's all great and dandy on the internet on their webpage, but will it make it to ABC and NBC to play during a primetime show? Yeah,
and you know what? Look, you got to watch BET and see if it pops up there. TV One, you got to watch some of these sporting events during those games if it's popping up, because that's when it would. You're going to put it on there when you feel like that demographic is watching, right?
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, it's probably popping up on our Facebook timelines to some degree, because they know what demographic you are. So, you know, it's all a tactic, man. It's all marketing. I'm not mad at anybody. You know, you got to do it. You see that you losing market share from a certain demographic. Okay, let's do something about it.
Yep. We hold a lot of money. We hold a lot of money that we expunge daily. So that's correct.
Now the buying power in the Black community is a huge factor for all these companies. Again, it's not a thing. I applaud a company for taking a approach to it. Because I go back to I just looked up the talk came out almost a year ago to the date. It's a little bit longer than a year ago. And that was in response to all the things going on in the communities and whatnot over the last couple of years.
Well, let's stay right there with the talk.
But I said because the biggest thing with that though is because I grew up in Cincinnati, I know I could probably name 80% of those products you talked about just because I grew up in that with people who worked in each of those different departments. I worked with the guy across the street, my best friend, the godfather of my son. His father worked at the Ivory plant before P&G sold it. Ivory soap put bread and butter on the table. The Tide department. My brother-in-law right now works for the perfume department and makes the scents for the IT of the scent department. If you're in Cincinnati Proctor Gamble, you have opportunities to do stuff. But I didn't see any of the products in the ad. And most people, the everyday consumer, unless you're a product organization, whatever.
That would be too obvious, right? You have to be subtle about it.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, if you really want to show us something, Procter & Gamble, I just looked at their leadership. Out of all their leadership, they have one Black person. And she is she's the senior vice president of sales for North America. But that's one Black person out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That's Procter & Gamble. That's Procter & Gamble's head leadership.
Yeah, the umbrella.
Okay. And then there's divisions over each individual product.
Individual entity. I mean, when I first
I don't know about the upper P&G as a whole.
Yeah, P&G as a whole.
Yeah.
Out of 32 people, they have one Black lady. They have a couple of Indians and a lady that looks like she could be Asian.
Okay.
So out of 32 people, they have 4 minorities? Doesn't sound very equitable. Somebody needs to go.
It's more than that. It's 1, 2, 3. Still scrolling. It's a small number. 4.
Either way, it sounds like diversity and equity is extremely
5
lacking in the upper echelon at P&G. But BJ, I want to go back to your points about the talk, because I know we talked about it a couple episodes ago, and you were watching the When They See Us series with your boys.
Yes. Well, with my older son, I didn't do it with. I decided against my youngest son.
Okay, good deal. So how did your oldest son take it?
Really, I it's hard to describe because we've debriefed. We have to finish the last episode because he had we were gone, and then he had camp and everything. Mm-hmm. So we kind of put it on pause for a minute. So we got to finish it. But surprisingly well, and I say surprisingly only because I thought he would have a lot more questions. But he really understood and could explain stuff back to me. I didn't just say, "Do you have any questions?" It really was specific about. So I would pause it during the show and say, "Tell me what just happened. What did you see? Do you understand what's going on right there?" And sometimes he didn't get it, but there's a lot of things that he picked up on throughout the episodes. It was like, okay, he is paying attention. He does understand. And a lot of things kind of shocked him. He like, well, but they weren't doing anything. But he didn't do it. But he just lied to him. And at that point in time, he was talking about the first episode. He's talking about the parents. Like the parents. Well, why did the parent make him do that? He shouldn't have done that. Like, he's 12 years old. He'll be 13 in September, right? Mm-hmm. And he's picking up on these things. So surprisingly well, it just kind of reinforced the conversations that I've already started having with him over the last couple of years. But again, I decided not to show my youngest son right now. I just think there was a lot more. He needs a little bit more maturity before we do that. Will I show it to him? Yes. It's just not right this second. Wasn't the time to do it.
How old is the youngest?
He's 10.
Yeah,
So that almost 3 years different. It makes a difference.
Oh yeah.
I absolutely think so. And that's understandable. So you say how far did he get into the last episode?
We haven't watched the last episode yet.
At all.
Okay.
Because I think seeing that episode, I mean, it's just like it's super traumatic, like super shocking. So, I'm really interested in what the conversation is like, and does he feel like he experiences any of these things, on a small scale, not necessarily a larger scale, but how he kind of moves in his daily.
So from what I didn't ask him that specifically, has he ever experienced any of the stuff? But his response was basically, I understand why I have to watch who I'm with and what's going on around me. The long conversation we had years ago, like as you grow older and you're out with friends, like what you do matter. What you do matters. I don't care if you're who you're with. What you do matters. As a young Black kid, what you do matter. Prime example, this weekend, and it didn't catch him at first. He kind of looked at me and just shook his head. They were playing tag outside, summer game, right? Run around the neighborhood. But all the other kids were running in between people's cars and up in the house, like a garage door, across their front yards. I looked at it like, y'all don't do that. Y'all can't do that.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he stopped and looked at me and just like, okay. Like the wheels were turning and he got it. My youngest son didn't get it at first. But everybody else is doing it. Like, I understand everybody, but you two can't do that.
Right.
Yeah, not at all, man. I mean, the consequences you suffer can be grave. I mean, I have a broken wrist from the 8th grade that I got for walking past a car in my neighborhood, and this fully grown adult thinks that, I spit on his vehicle and he's like 20 feet away or whatnot. And he comes out and is very aggressive and stuff. And I'm like, I'm in the 8th grade at the time. So we're like 12, 13. And I end up with a broken arm just walking down the street. So doing all of that extra stuff, you got to know that there's a heightened sense of urgency that you got to have, an understanding of the consequences that it comes with just being, unfortunately, a black man in America, or a young Black man in America. Which brings me to my next question, because I have my son here now, and I'm seeing some things, and getting to know him as a younger person and all of his little intricacies and genius moments and try me moments and stuff. And so I'm asking you all, because we all have children at various ages. I know Art and Carol's are closer, but what is the single most important thing that you're pouring into those young men right now? Or you feel like that message that you want to get across to them?
Right now, I'm just kind of making sure that he understands that he's good. He's good enough. So I talk about his hair, talk about his skin color. Today, he came back from swimming. Now I was like, oh, you're starting to get a little tan. You're getting a little darker. It's just nice. And he goes, no, Daddy, I don't want to get darker. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? He goes, no, I don't want darker. He's thinking crayons and like colors. And I'm like, no, you know what a tan means? You go to the sun. And say, your brown skin is beautiful. I'm like, brown skin is beautiful. Don't ever say it's not. He goes, okay. But every day I talk to him about his nose, about his hair, about how cool his curly hair is and his tight curls, how awesome it is. And that's just what it is. So I want to get in the mindset now as a young person that everything about him is awesome. And so someone that comes in and someone says, oh, it's not great, he can go, no, my hair is great, or this is awesome. I've known this since I was little. What are you talking about? Your hair is not good. So, or your dish is not that, whatever it may be. So that's what I do every day. Every time I talk to him, it's always like just about what he naturally has and how awesome it is. Between him, his brother's different hair, my different hair, our different complexions, our different looks. But that's what I try to preach to him daily.
I think for me right now, it's just about protecting the spaces that he's in, the Asher's in, right? So case in point, everybody knows on here that he started talking late and They got a really good kind of school system here where they pay attention to that stuff and they have services that they offer. But, the biggest thing was that they're like, well, we think he has a delay in his development. And I'm like, whoa, let's be careful with the words we're using.
It was precisely
Delay in development. What does that mean? And if we do decide to take advantage of this program, what is that? Does that become a label? Like, what is that? Like, how does that follow him in the school system?
all right.
All of these things that, look, he's too young to know, but it could affect him later on. So I think really it's just making sure that people know, look, he can't speak up for himself. He can't determine the track he's going to be on right now.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, just know that you're not dealing with parents that aren't involved, that aren't going to ask you the questions, that aren't going to challenge you in your assessment. So I think that's the biggest thing right now. Obviously, look, we don't live in a predominantly Black area. We don't live in a highly populated Black area. And I, to a degree, when they see him, they probably don't immediately know. They might think he's Indian, as possible, just because of his complexion. There's a lot of different factors going on, but I think right now it's just making sure that the right tone is set in these environments that he's in.
I got it.
I'd have to say for me is because they're older. I agree, and I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think we're at a stage where personally right now, it comes down to a couple things. For us, it's faith, so prayer. And after that comes being the example. But I mean, it's not one of those do as I say, not as I do type things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not being a hypocrite to what you're teaching them. So I'm teaching them about being aware, being alert. There's no reason for you to be get upset about situations, and how you treat people and do things like that is really about relationships. And no matter what goes on, like initially you show respect to people until they give you a reason not to engage them, right? Don't let them see you, how you respond, how you treat mom, how you treat grandma, how you treat the neighbors and everybody else. So be the example that you want them to emulate. Because they take note of that. They'll say, well, daddy's telling me to do this, do X, Y, and Z, but he's not doing it himself. And they take mental note of that stuff. And that comes out later on years when I had them in 5th and 6th grade, and they have conversations. True. Well, my mama said this, but she don't ever do it. Or she tell me that I have to respect people, but she don't respect nobody. And they're very candid with their conversations when they get old enough to express them. So I made a vow early on that I did not want to be that example, the wrong example of that.
Gotcha. Yeah, for me, it's about solidifying the identity right now. I'm really big on Kellen knowing who he is and the power of his name, because a lot comes behind that, and it sets up the foundation for him for a lot of stuff, especially at this age where he soaks in and takes in everything. He's so impressionable, and there's a lot of older people that are around him when he's at home in Florida. And he's got older cousins that he's always around and such. So it's easy for him to pick up on some things. And, I had to negate, some of the behaviors and things he was doing when he first got here. So getting him to understand, like the power of his name, what he needs to do as far as right and wrong, and staying true to that identity, being his name, which means strength, being strong enough to, overcome, some of those urges or things that aren't very good for you or aren't the right thing to do. Get him to understand that he can do that while feeding this, curiosity, because he's a little into everything, man, and trying to figure out everything and do everything. It's amazing. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. So Faison,
Yeah,
we got to start with you. Get an arts corner in, and we might have to get like 2 or 3 of them in, so we have them on deck next for the hiatus.
It's been interesting. So there's not a fancy dancy, usual out of the box thinking. I had to go simple. So I tell it to myself. I didn't have any weird moments. I've always, still maintained positive vibes, still maintained that person. But it was awesome to hear My current boss, she hates the word boss, so she's listening to this. Sorry, but my direct told me that she depends on me to be the person that brings positivity to the group. And if I'm not positive, or if I'm having a bad experience, then everything else is going to fall apart. So I take it to myself and say, you know what? There are times that you just can't control things around you, and you gotta do your thing. And sometimes it means go back in your bubble and do what you gotta do to maintain yourself and protect yourself before you try to go out there and save the world. Make sure you're taking care of you. And that's been a reflection for a week or two, just on everything from work to life, to boys, to moms, to the real estate thing. And just like, you know what, you go your full head of steam all the time for everyone else, but you never think like, okay, what's going on with me? And I realized I had to just take care of me for a second. So there was a little vacation from everything. I still maintain my fatherly duties and my husband duties and everything else, but mentally I took a break. To be able to come back and say, okay, now I understand where I am, and I can be me again. So do that for yourself. If you're out there and you feel like you're on your limit, just step back. The world will continue on forward. And then when you're ready to jump back in again, jump back into the race. Hopefully you're ahead of this time. You actually know where to go. You can see it moving in front of you. You can hop in the matrix easily, but you got to step back sometime and see it for what it is.
Cool. BJ, you got something to add before I go to Curl and get us out of here?
That was gold right there. I hope the people was listening.
Cool, man. So remember, if you're listening to us, get connected with us on all our social media platforms at 13th Floor, please. You can catch the podcast each and every week on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and the videos on Vimeo and YouTube. Yeah, that's all I got. Coach K, what you got to take us home, brother?
It's perfect, man. I think it's going to complement Faison's corner. Be aware, but don't veer. Meaning be aware of the possibilities of things that you will face along the way, on the road to success, on the road to satisfaction. But don't veer. Don't let what somebody else's opinion of who you should be or what you should be take you off course. Don't allow the past to take you off your current and your future course. Make sure that you continue to forge straight ahead on what is for you and what is going to happen for you because of who you are. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And you are solely in control of that.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for listening here with us on the 13th floor, where the furniture isn't always the best, but the views are amazing.
Everyone.
Come on, baby.
The 13th floor.
121 episodes.
I know. Yeah.
The 13th floor.